Okay, we've got the countdown. We are officially live. My name is Carla Greengrass. I'm an admissions coach here with iPEC Coaching, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And I'm delighted to welcome you to our Energy Explorers Live series. As you probably know, our mission here at iPEC is to raise the consciousness of the world one person at a time. So not only are we certified professional coaches, we are a community of helpers. And in order to do that with our big hearts, we dive into our higher purposes, and the Energy Explorers Live series is a way for us to highlight our amazing graduates, our amazing coaches who are out in the world using their talents, their drive, and their highest selves in order to live their purpose. And our guest today is doing that in such an interesting and unique way that is having ripple effects that are expanding and expanding, and we're going to hear all about that. So this is our opportunity to get at the heart of what it really means to be a certified professional coach and an individual creating conscious awareness around the world. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest. We have Javier Lopez with us today, and he is, I love this, the geek in chief and the co-founder of the Gov Geeks. This is a government-focused coaching practice that is committed to helping public servants get in and get ahead in their careers. Through coaching, workshop facilitation, and public addresses, Javier presents the genuine value of service. Drawing upon over 2 decades as a high-performing federal executive and a professor of organizational leadership, Javier is a scholar practitioner and keynote speaker who offers helpful career strategies that focus on personal empowerment and mission success. His unique insights are of value not only to individuals, but organizations as well. So much goodness there that I'm just going to shut up and welcome you, Javier. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Carla. I appreciate you all your nice words that you've shared.
Well, not only are they nice, I think that it is, as someone who has become a coach herself, who is, coaching in a space that is passionate for me, and having conversations as a admissions coach with so many individuals looking to become coaches, we are often drawn to what we know and what inspires us, which sounds like it is in your case, but I would just love for you to build out a little bit upon that's your bio, but tell us a little bit about how you got here and kind of what brought you to coaching in general.
Sure, absolutely. Well, honestly, I was a teacher for many years, teaching high school and speech and debate and all of that. And I very much love the interaction in that environment with teaching students. So there's this connectedness that I felt that was really important for me. I came to Washington, D.C. just about 20 years ago now, just with this idea of trying to give it a shot, to actually do the things that we were talking about in debates and policy discussions and all of that sort of stuff. Got into government, had a wonderful time, had the opportunity to connect and work with hiring managers, human capital experts, on and on, even paying for coaching services myself and career coaches and such to help me understand how best I could actually move ahead in my career. Come to find out later on that I, with this baby face of mine, would get asked so often, how the heck did you get here? This is crazy. I've been trying to get into government for so many years. I've been trying to get that next job, that next level. What is the secret that you're holding from all of us? It's a fountain of youth somewhere. I mean, what's going on? So I have a lot of conversations with people, and that same aspect of why I enjoy teaching. And now I'm heading into my 16th year as a graduate school professor as well, which is really interesting. Just having these conversations with individuals. And I found such a passion in that I started to ask myself, how can I possibly do more of this? And at the time, the idea and concept of coaching as a profession, to be frank, was fairly unknown to me. You don't really see it so much as like a specific job title in government or in other areas. So I began exploring how I could really kind of expand on this And a good friend of mine and fellow coach, John Nerl, who actually also is an iPEC grad, recommended the program to me. So I did that, continuing to follow it through, working with the ICF and others to help continue and further my credentials. And it's all about that same thing, providing value to an individual, having those important discussions. And now I feel I have so much more of a means of doing that in a deeper way.
Yes, that makes total sense. Just even in terms of the trajectory of your career, in service, I see teaching as being in service to the, molding minds and to inspiring. And so that trajectory, so there's this wonderful golden thread that sort of ties it all together. And I am curious because, as you said, you don't necessarily think about government and coaching. So tell us a little bit about how that kind of came to be in terms of this area of specialization for you.
Oh, definitely. So I had the chance to go to a specific program that the U.S. Office of Personnel Management hosts. It's an organization called the Federal Executive Institute. And as part of a month-long coaching program, they really dive into skills and abilities that an individual would need to serve as an executive within the government. To help people get to that point, they utilize a number of coaching strategies and skills, which is just phenomenal. I mean, it works so well. And I remember sitting there thinking, I've been in government for however many years at that point. And this is the first time really that I'm seeing this happen. I mean, what if more people in government had a chance to get exposed to some of these different concepts and what's going on? And I really wanted to have it as a methodology, what we created with the GovGeeks, as a means of really conveying that to people, delivering it to everyone. So our mission is to really help individuals in government, federal, state, local, et cetera, to help them live fulfilling lives and careers. It was just phenomenal for me. So why should I hide all of that in? I might as well share it with everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so how were you able to, I guess that's not the question. Was there a level of education that needed to happen within the space that you work in to sort of create an understanding of the value that coaching can bring?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So to be honest, what happened to me and my journey, finished my undergrad, started thinking about what master's education would look like, finally settled on Trinity Washington University, where I graduated with my Master's of Science in Administration. And that is the same place, by the way, that I had the chance to, and still do, to continue teaching. Just when I was graduating, they pulled me back in, and I've been there ever since. But for me, I thought that to do what I'm doing now, I needed to have a doctorate. It was just in my mind, this is definitely the thing that is necessary. So I started a couple of different programs. First, it was at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. And then at GW's school as well, they have a School of Human and Organizational Learning, an EDD program. But a terrible and yet wonderful thing happened to me. I hit what is called a lifelong lending limit. So I couldn't get any more student loans like at all. I can get private, tuition and funding at huge interest rates, which was just, crazy. And so I'm sitting back thinking, I had done all of this planning and effort to know that I did have enough, and oh my gosh, my future is just, what am I going to do now? And then I began looking inwards a bit more and understanding, well, what is it really that drives me? What are the things that I'm really passionate about? And how else can I find that? And then, lo and behold, I find out more and more about what coaching is and how I could utilize it. So thankfully, I was able to find coaching in that way, and recognizing that I didn't need that extra tuition payment, basically. And then I could find really what I was looking for through iPEC and through coaching in general.
Yeah, Yeah, no, absolutely. Yay, number one. And to your point, you know, it's that curiosity about how do I want to serve, and what is going to allow me to serve in this powerful way. And that is a discovery process. And it sounds like, the universe, the universe had plans for you by your tapping out of your loans that made you look in different areas. And that is part of the process, really understanding, like, how do I want to serve? Who do I want to serve? And in what capacity, and what's going to allow me to do that? Those are a lot of the questions that as admissions coach that we work on with individuals who are getting curious about coach training. Because, there are other paths, whether it's, becoming a therapist or getting a master's. And so really honing in on that clarity and knowing how you want to show up and what's going to allow you to do that seems like it was really beneficial for you.
Yes, it definitely was. Having a path in general is just so great. And it's funny that we're having that conversation because in general, the coaching process, like how to become a coach, is fairly standardized. Like we know for sure with ICF credentials and with the process that iPEC follows, where at the end of it, you have the capabilities and the credentials to coach. But then the next question then comes in, where and how do you coach? And there's been so many questions about, how do I find my audience? How much should I charge? How do I develop more of a presence? Are there companies that I can work for? Who's hiring for this type of a coach? What type of coaching do I want to do? That's another very big question as well. And so even after iPEC, the journey continues. And it's so meaningful for all of us because we get to find the spaces and the niche areas that are important and valuable to us.
Yeah. I know. I love that you brought that up too, because, it's like you think about choosing a college or, it's almost like you have to put a stake in the ground of what I want to do. And this is what I'm going to study. And there is something very fluid, as you said, there's something fluid about coaching right now. The Gov Geeks is where it's at for you. Who's to say that in a different stage of your life, there may be another calling for you? And it sounds like you feel like with your experience, with your education, that you've laid the groundwork to really show up in powerful ways, regardless of who it is that you want to coach, so that you almost take that pressure off.
It does, so much so. It reminds me of this beautiful saying of where a bird sits comfortably in a tree because its confidence and faith lies not in the tree branch, but in its own wings. So we can be in an environment, in a circumstance, the job falls apart, this other thing happens, but we have faith in our capabilities and have built the right infrastructure of support around us that you could just fly away and do something else.
Did anyone out there get that quote? I think that was beautiful. You're going to have to send that to me afterwards.
Sure.
I love that.
I'm sure there's a t-shirt on it someplace out there.
I was going to say there's got to be something on Etsy out there that we can find, but you'll have to send that to me later. So, our mission statement at iPEC is to change, to raise the consciousness of the world one person at a time. And I'm speaking for myself right now, not for anybody else. But when I think about the government, conscious awareness is not always the statement that I put together with the government. And that's just my small worldview. You live in this space. And so I would just love to hear you speak a little bit about, again, this is your passion. This is where you reside. This is what you know. How does that show up? And the ripple effect, because I feel like this is such an amazing ripple effect. And I hope your business continues to grow and grow and grow, so that you can continue to have that impact. But speak a little bit about your impact and the ripple effect that you are affecting.
Sure. It's interesting because on the one hand, there's this overall assumption that there is not that big of a market when it comes to government. We we have industry, we have all of these other ideas and concepts about what is and what is not government. But if you were to step back and think about it, every school teacher working in a public school, a university, local governments, your water, your transportation services that are publicly provided. The federal government itself spends trillions of dollars each year. It is the largest employer in the world. I mean, you think like, oh, Walmart is huge. Well, of course it's huge, but the operating budget is nowhere near the federal government's, let alone certain agencies and departments within government. If we think about how many people actually are employed as a public servant, it's amazing. So this pool of individuals that has yet to receive coaching services in a way that is helpful for them and helpful for the work that they do is just, and the way I see it, it is just ripe for growth and excellence and improvement. The other thing also is that we may have ideas in our mind about what we see or read about what government is. And sure, there is the political aspect of government in general. But really the focus that the GovGeeks has is on the standard public servants, career public servants that day in, day out are doing the work that we need them to and don't get a lot of fanfare or credit. And on top of that, there's not too many like marketing agencies. For instance, if you have brand loyalty to any sort of a product, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, McDonald's, what have you, largely that's because there are brilliant ad wizards out there helping you to feel good about what that is. There is no such thing really for government. And so it's people who are choosing to show up and contribute to serve the greater good in a way that helps them and helps others, and they can sleep well at night about it. That's the person.
And we can sleep well, right? We get to sleep well at night knowing that there are individuals out there doing that. And it's such a good point. Unsung heroes in many respects.
And that's why kind of I have, of course, like the Captain America shield and everything here in the background.
So on brand.
Yeah, I mean, because I really do see the work that public servants and government employees do as actually being heroic.
Wow, fantastic. I love that. So I just want to remind our participants that if you have questions for Javier, please pop them into the Q&A, the Q&A, so that we can see them. And those questions can range from the type of work that he does to, how he chose to do his training in the place that he chose to do it. How, and actually that I'm curious about that. So iPEC, core energy coaching really from the inside out. So, and it sounds like because you are within this area, there's an understanding of the government, understanding of what they may be facing and what they're up against. But in terms of sort of how you bring your iPEC training to the work that you do, I know it's a really broad question, but I'm curious, how does core energy coaching kind of show up for you in the work that you do?
Oh, all of the time. Really, you can recognize and notice what sort of energy an individual is bringing to the conversation or how they are using that to address whatever concerns that they have. And that is a way of helping them understand where they are and how they can move forward. It's an amazing thing because as coaches, we have the opportunity to be very objective. When we have conversations with them, we're not going to turn right around and go have a conversation with their boss and say, well, this is what they said. And they don't have to have any thoughts about us as a coach having an agenda with them. Like, I need to really increase their performance and everything so we can meet our quarterly end goals and all of that. A coach is definitely just there for them. And so using energy leadership coaching to help them unlock some of the potential barriers that they have set for themselves consciously or unconsciously and help them move forward. Quite literally, that is life-changing.
That is life-changing. Of course, when you get to that, really are able to kind of strip away all the other things and really focus on what's in front of you and what it is that you truly want. it's powerful. And that is the space that a coach can create. I'm curious, how much of are you 100%, because you're still a professor, right? So what percentage of your day is spent coaching? What percentage of your day is on your other day job?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. And this, I think, is a really great point for everyone to consider. Your path in coaching is totally up to you, like how you choose to spend your time and invest your hours. I work with colleagues and friends and others that have been through the iPEC program, for instance, and they choose just to embark on how they're enacting their training in a different way. For me, I'm actually still in a 9 to 5 role in government. I have an approval to do outside activities, which allows me to have my coaching practice. And in doing that, I can partner with other organizations as well. So through my coaching practice, I'm able to teach. I teach for the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. I teach for universities, again, Trinity, Washington, one of them, of course. I teach for organizations and give presentations to nonprofits and other areas or agencies or companies as well. I partner with different organizations to provide coaching services directly as well. There's a whole lot of them out there. If you were to look at like BetterUp or Coach Hub or a number of other organizations, institutions, I have found that I have a blend of all of that stuff. So I'm able to hold down a 9 to 5 with all of the benefits that come with it, healthcare, all of those important things. And then evenings, I do all of my coaching hours. So I'll do either a couple of a day or a couple more. I typically find myself going to even as late as 10 o'clock. And at first glance, that sounds like, oh my gosh, you must be exhausted. But for me, that's where I get my energy. I feel very fueled and fulfilled by having these sorts of conversations. So the challenge for me then is laying up in bed, like thinking, that was so cool. I can't sleep right now. I'm just so energized. Letting my mind cool a bit and then go to sleep. Or I'll take vacation time and go and teach classes, those sorts of things. Or go on travel and then pop open a laptop and still do my coaching sessions and all of that as well. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And that's I think that's one of the things I hear a lot in my role is people that are, well, two separate things. One, looking for that freedom and flexibility, because as you said, coaching, you can now certainly do it wherever, whenever, with things like this, Zoom and cameras and phones. And the other thing that you mentioned is you have your 9 to 5. And I think a lot of people feel like when they're enrolling in a coach training program, like, I better be a coach. And that's sort of the end game. And that for a lot of people it is, and that's amazing. But I think there's that pressure of feeling like it's either or versus the and. Yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Or it's, the this. So I'm going to do one until the other one, picks up. But there are options, and we don't have to put a stake in the ground immediately and put all that pressure on ourselves to say, no, if I'm doing this, I'm going to be a full-time coach. You're modeling exactly how you can continue your 9 to 5 passion and your, potentially 6 to 10 passion as well.
Definitely. And it's all about the balance that you want to create in your life. For me, I'm very thankful that my coaching practice has picked up a whole lot. And I know we were talking about this in the call earlier on. It's typically a question. I recall really wanting to know the answer to this question when I was considering which programs to choose, and heck, even in the program, really wanting more about this information. So I have my 9 to 5. And thankfully for me, that's roughly about $175K a year. And then in addition to that, my coaching practice and everything that I have on that end is upwards of 70 to 80 as well. And so this is how I decide to use my time. And when you add all of that stuff up together, for me, it's like, wow, great. Let me pay down all of my student debt. Maybe I'll make a bigger dent in the mortgage. Or we could do some vacations or something else like that. And the cool thing is that while the money is a helpful motivator, it's
Mm,
also something as a tool to get towards something else. So
mm,
whatever that is defined for you, I want to travel, I want to have this type of a lifestyle or live in this locale, it's all available. And with enough time and dedication and building your practice and understanding who your client is and all of that,
mm.
the easier it can become.
Okay, thank you for that because you're right. I get that question a lot. And it's great to hear from someone who's legitimately built a practice. And thank you for sharing those specific numbers because I think that's not something that, people are generally comfortable with, but it's something to celebrate. And the one of the one of the questions that I will often hear is how long? How long is it going to take me to make this much money? And we've got stories of students who booked $75,000 worth of clients while they were in the program. And 87% of our students do have paying clients even before they complete the training. Great information, but I would love to hear from you and everyone's journey is different. I'll put that caveat out there. And you are someone that was building this alongside a full-time job. Um, Give me a sense of like how long it took you to start to build that momentum around your income with coaching.
Sure, sure. So my coaching practice started just about 6 years ago. But my journey through iPEC wasn't that long ago. It was like maybe, gosh, 2 or 3 years ago at this point. Um, and I mentioned that because I was doing a little bit of groundwork up front. But for me, the biggest thing happened roughly around, I'd say, after iPEC, maybe year 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is a huge thing. And actually, to be fair, if I were to say from the starting point of iPEC and then getting out, and then how long does it take? Really, for me, it took just about under 2 years. The biggest leap, though, was beginning to understand how I could provide what I care about in my services to the individuals that I really was focusing on. I, like many other people, was like, let me follow this model. Let me follow that model. What else can I do? Who's out there that's doing this? Let me see if I can duplicate it. It took me enough time to realize a couple of things. One, how much should I actually be charging? And two, how much are my target clients willing to pay? Because those are two completely different numbers. I had a coach mentor that was telling me once that you should say, all right, what is your minimum need? Okay, divide that up by however many hours, and that is your hourly rate. And now go out and book as many of those clients as you can to hit that hourly rate and that target. But one of the things that was missing from that factor is how much are people willing to actually spend on this? Again, for your specific area. For me in government, not too many people really knew about it. And so they weren't willing to invest in something that they didn't really know much about or really see a lot of value in up front because they've never heard of it or experienced it. So that was kind of like a jumping block for me to get over. Other coaches, people are entirely used to spending that much. Or nonprofits and academic institutions that typically look for less fees in the way of coaching in that regard. So like what is accurate and right? The second thing then I would say is it's not about necessarily selling directly to individuals, but it can be what partner organizations can you team up with to help you along that journey. So either selling directly to an organization or partnering with an organization and coaching some of the people that they have already done all of the hard work and gone out and earned themselves. I mentioned BetterUp a little while ago. I've been with BetterUp for just over a year now, and that has been phenomenal. I started off with maybe, I don't know, like 7 clients, and now I'm at the point where I have capped it off at 60 clients because I don't have enough time on the calendar.
Did you say 60? 60?
60.
Wow. And so for those who are watching, BetterUp is an organization that outsources coaches. And in order to be, I'm just curious for you to share, in order to be a BetterUp coach, you need to have your certification. Do you also need credentials as well?
All of that is very helpful. So if a
Yeah.
person has a psychiatry background or another
Mhm.
type of coaching, those are all certain aspects that are very desirable. I have found that ICF is just a tremendous way to kind of get your foot in the door. And it takes a little bit of time to make sure you're designing your profile correctly and
Interesting.
being
Yeah.
able to attract people who select you as their coach. But
Right.
it is a great thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a whole other Energy Explorers Live right there.
exactly. All of that is good.
Yeah. We've
I
actually got a question. Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Javier.
Oh, I'll say just briefly.
Yeah.
So the ICF chapters, I am the treasurer for the Maryland chapter, which is a
Oh,
great organization, great opportunity to connect with people. If you have a local chapter that's out there that you want to get more involved in, that is a wonderful way to do some networking. Referrals happen all of the time within that scenario. So things like that are possible.
yeah. Oh, that's fabulous. And a little plug for an interview that we'll be doing with Don Whittle from the ICF on September 14th. Mark your
Woo.
calendars for all of those questions that you might have, because the ICF is our professional organization, wonderful networking opportunities, learning opportunities. So if you're curious about that, join us again. Um, we've got a question. I want to pronounce your name right. Hope I do. Annalie, I hope that was right. Thank you so much for your question. Javier, would you share an example of results that your clients have experienced after applying the energy leadership principles?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I think that still carries through really deeply with me are the gales. If an individual is
Mhm.
experiencing any sort of gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, or limiting beliefs, um, and through the conversations, as I began making observations or pointing things out in partnership with them, they're able to kind of layer back a little bit more and kind of understand, like, oh, I was so focused on this because my assumption was that, or I had this idea that I was fearful about this or this because of this past experience, but I no longer need to hold on to it. So some of the individuals that I've worked with, a great person who's a senior vice president in a well-to-do corporation, I'll say, has had some challenges really understanding expectations for herself. And a lot of that came down to level one energy. You know, gosh, I don't think I'm good enough. I'm not qualified. I need to work harder. And that grind was helpful to a degree, but also limiting as well because it was causing some other impacts. And to be honest, also not allowing her to grow beyond that. Like, so many people have the opportunity to get that next promotion or to do that next thing, but they're too scared of what that would mean or what that would represent. So unpacking some of that is really a great tool to help them help themselves.
Yeah, right. And that's where that conscious awareness comes in. Once you sort of you see it, you can't unsee it, and it gives
Exactly.
you that space of that shared language. I think for that's something that I've experienced, is when we can give people the language, even if it's just the levels, right? Level one, level two. By having that language, they can start to understand it and unpack it. But when we can't put our finger on it, it just sort of floats out there, and we don't do anything about it. So that's really powerful. Thank you. Thank you for that. John has a question. And it's a great question. Can you be a coach and a consultant at the same time?
Oh, that is such a fantastic question.
Mhm.
The reason why is that a lot of companies pay high dollar for consultants, mainly because they understand and buy into the concept of consulting without fully understanding what coaching is. So there's different methodologies for a consultant and a coach. A coach is going to have the understanding that the individual that they're working with has the answers, has the expertise and the experience because they are in that industry. It's just a matter of helping them work through some of the challenges that they have. A consultant is going to say, I'm the expert in this area. I know what you're doing because I've done it before, or I have a degree in this area. Therefore, you should do what I say. Follow this
Mhm.
5 steps, and you're going to be able to get this and this. That's sort of an approach.
Yeah.
I have found, though, that there are good ways to marry the two. So, for instance, if an individual, and I work with a number of executives as well, they'll say, gosh, I'm having this challenge. I could say, I've experienced something similar. Would it be okay if I shared something with you? Sure, absolutely. Tell me how you dealt with this. And I said, well, in this circumstance, I did X, Y, and Z. Then the coaching kicks back in, where we could say, how do you think something like that could serve you? Or have you considered how this or this could perhaps help you through what you're going through? And then the wheel starts spinning in their head. Like, yeah, I did that before at this other team, or here was this other way. Maybe I could try it this way. So rather than, we're just being in the straight coach model and saying, I don't know, what do you think you should do? Sort of deal.
And that's actually, listen, like there is, there's two sides to that, right? I sometimes think when we talk about core energy coaching, the beauty is you can coach anyone around anything with your skills. And there's every now and then there's a benefit to not knowing their story, because we're not coaching the story. And if we know too much about their experience, we might jump in the box because it's, triggering for us. And at the same time, there's clearly credibility that comes along with the fact that you know their industry, you've been there before, there's a comfort level there. And so what I hear you saying is that as long as there's permission, as long as there's a demarcation of, okay, like, would it be okay if I shared this with you? You've got a wealth of experience. And it sounds like what you're sharing then becomes a jumping off platform for them to start getting those ideas on their own. So we're back, as you said, back to that coaching model.
Absolutely. And that's kind of part of the reason why they may have selected you as their coach anyways. They're reading the profile, they're trying to understand it from their website. Does this person have that type of insight that I'm looking for or that I need? And so that could be something that would be an excellent reason to have the conversation to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there breathing a sigh of relief, which is understandable, because there's that fear of like, oh my God, I've got all this information and this knowledge. Like, how do I impart this in a way that honors our ethics and honors how we show up, as a coach? So thank you. I really appreciate that.
I value you mentioning that as well, because sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the circumstances, but it's important for us to coach the person in the circumstance, not to coach around the circumstances themselves.
That's another T-shirt right there.
That's straight from iPEC.
There you go.
Very good.
That's a business idea right there. So I saw another question that came in through the Q&A. How did you, this is just going back to basics, but for those who are sort of in this space of early in their research process around coach training, how did you choose iPEC? What were some of those factors that you were looking for in terms of what I would say your wish list, and how did they line up?
Absolutely. So at the time, I was a director for a division in government, and I was one of the lucky areas that actually had access to coaches. This is apart from that training program that I had gone through. So a group of individuals came out, and they had gone through the Georgetown program, which was, a fine program. In fact, I was actually even considering going to the Georgetown program. The experience that I had with some of the coaches, though, from that wasn't all that great for one reason or another. And I can go into details offline if you guys would like. But as I researched it more, I had a better understanding that program, and in a sense, many other university programs, had a academic bend to it. They're a university, so they have to kind of have something like that. And for me, what I was really excited about with iPEC was it was more than just teaching you the tools, but it's also saying how you can do this as like a bigger part of your career, how you can establish something. So it was much more hands-on as opposed to just theoretical. And
Mm.
then, as part of my networking with my colleagues and friends and others who referred me to speak to other people, I was referred to again, John, who now is a very dear friend. And
Mm.
I really had some good conversations over coffee with him about his experiences with iPEC and how things went and everything. And I was like, cool, let me go in there, give it a try. So the first session, you go in and it's yourself, and you bring whomever else that you want to come with you, your partner, whomever. Some people were like bringing business partners. I brought my business partner and much better half, Karen, who is the other half of the Gut Geeks. She and I are the Gut Geeks together. And both of us were very objective, but just really fell in love with the idea of what this is. Um, and I'll mention one of the most important things for me. So I was a professor before iPEC, and I remember sitting down after one of the classes ended, and I journal. Good self-reflection tool, by the way. And
Mm.
I recall writing down, how could I do this more? And just like sending that out into the void, into the universe. Where could I find a way to do this and yet still be able to make ends meet in my life and find some fulfillment along the way as well? And when I was sitting through that program initially with iPEC, I felt that that was the answer. Like
Mm.
this is it. I have finally found it. Oh my gosh, it's coaching. It's iPEC. This is it. I'm going for it. And yeah, it's been a fantastic journey since.
That's awesome. That's so powerful. I got chills hearing you say that, because I think a lot of us that have gone through the program can relate to that sentiment of being in that first module. I'm so distracted by your dog now. He's adorable.
Oh yeah.
Um, but of going, yeah, I'm right where I am meant to be in this moment, and this is an opportunity. And I really appreciate you sharing your perspective also on your choices. And the beauty is we all have choice, and an academic track is can be really powerful for individuals. And I've spoken to individuals who are really interested in the theory, and then what iPEC offers is a combination, right, of you're getting the theory, but you're doing it in a way that's sort of whole body. It's a full contact sport, as I like to say, where you're learning the theory, and then it's that practice and internalization and synthesis that brings it all home in such a powerful way. And you also referred to the opportunity to bring a guest along to that first module, which is our way of, let's bring this full circle. It's our way of helping us to further our mission of raising the consciousness of the world one person at a time. And how amazing to be able to bring your business partner slash your better half. So I want to be cognizant of the time, of your precious time, of our viewers' time. See if anyone else has additional questions, pop them in there. But if not, know that this will exist as a recording. You'll probably get a copy so you can go back and write down all those amazing information and quotes that Javier provided us today. You can also, and I think we'll probably put this in the notes as well, where you can reach Javier if you have questions about the work that he does. His website is thegovgeeks.com. Some other day we'll talk about the geeks part. I'm curious about that.
It blends in. It's like everything you can see with the hammers stuff in the background.
Yeah.
Football season is starting, so I'm wearing a bow tie that is actually made out of a old football as well.
Wow, that's amazing. I did not notice that. That's fabulous. So
Yeah,
that's your geek showing right there.
yeah. Follow your passion. Do what makes you feel comfortable, and then that's what actually kind of sets you apart from other coaches and other service offerings out there.
Amen. I love what you just said. What sets you apart is your passion. It's how you show up. And, energy attracts like energy, right? That is one of the key foundational principles. And, coaching is a space where you can truly be you. And when you have that clarity and that sense of how you want to serve and who you want to serve, and you can articulate that in a way that connects with people, you were talking about that before, they're out there. This is an abundant space. Your clients are out there. If you're considering coaching, trust me, there are people out there waiting for you. you specifically to show up and coach them. So
Great.
in that sense, and we've actually, before I wrap this up, we've got one more question for you, if you have the time to answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to.
Nancy asks, how accepting was your current employer about your coaching business?
Oh, pretty accepting. So right from the very beginning, I've been at that organization for 11 years now. I didn't know this until later on when I was actually hired, but they gave me a nickname even at the very beginning of the interview process. And they said that, yeah, you remember that guy, the professor, the guy with the bow tie. So I was always the professor. So going into that, my boss knew that this was something that I had a passion in, just connecting, teaching with others, etc. And actually, I'm very excited to share this with you guys. Because of that continued partnership, one of the great things is that I can utilize a lot of my coaching skills and the work that I do, not just in my regular 9 to 5 sort of activities that are standard, but also through different training programs there as well. So I created a series called there's an I Wish I Knew series, and it's all about wellness. And it is a 6-part series that's talking about a number of different coaching concepts and pulling from different concepts from leadership, neuroscience, connectiveness, energy, all of these things to help individuals in some small way as they attend for 1-hour sessions to uplift themselves a little bit more. So, and that's just one of the many examples of actually things that I've done. So they're getting their money's worth, I'll say, as well through this partnership.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that, just because you're going through a coach training program doesn't, that doesn't mean you have to go specifically be a coach and have your own practice. You are learning how to be a coach in every aspect of your life. So no matter where you are showing up in your current role, outside of work, in your community, in your family, those are the skills and tools and the well from which you're going to draw to live a transformative and fulfilling life and live just a more consciously aware life. So Javier, again, thank you so much. For those, again, who are interested in learning more about Javier, the govgeeks.com. For those who are interested in learning more about iPEC and the journey of coach training, there's a link in the chat where you can click on there and make an appointment with one of my amazing esteemed colleagues or myself to get started learning more about iPEC and coach training. Javier, again, thank you. Wishing you and your family a wonderful Labor Day, a safe Labor Day weekend, the unofficial gateway to the fall season, and football, go team. And to everybody that joined us, thank you so much. Join us again for Energy Explorers. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.